here to talk about termination of the Restore Grant Agreement. This has to do with the Port Richey Waterfront Improvement Project. It was funded via a separate agreement from the county's Restore Act direct component funds, or the Pot 1 funds. And that was for the amount of $667,000. The project was initially submitted to the Department of Treasury in June of 2015. The original scope was relocate the boat ramp from basically Nix Park over to the waterfront park, increase the boat trailer parking, dredge channels 1 and 18. 18 is the channel that's between Gildog and the waterfront park. 1 is the channel that runs along the waterfront park on the north to south. And then implement street improvements to support the traffic changes. The scope has since been revised and worked through to do only the dredge portions of Channel 1 due to the cost of the dredge. The dredge came back in, it was $652,000 for that dredge. Basically, it would eat up all $667,000 of it. So because of this change in scope, we sent a grant amendment off to Treasury and said, hey, this is our reduced scope. It submitted it. The Department of Treasury then notified the county that the grant amendment did not meet the scope of the original multi-year implementation plan that was submitted, primarily due to the fact that the boat ramps and the boat improvement portions of it were taken out. Here's the original map that was submitted when the city came to the county and presented at the Restore Act Advisory Committee. This is the original map that they submitted. You can see where they're talking about doing the master waterfront improvements, which includes the new boat parking, boat and trailer parking, and the changes to Nix Park. Okay, so to receive funding for this project, the county, in conjunction with the city, would need to submit a new project for consideration or a multi-year implementation plan amendment. So basically, the way this process works is when we go to allocate these funds, we write a multi-year plan amendment. We submit it to Treasury for approval after it's gone out to public for 45 days of comment period. And then Treasury, once they approve it, gives us the okay to submit a grant application. We submit the grant application. They review that. They issue a grant agreement. The subrecipient or the subaward agreement is then set up between us and the city, saying, hey, you got to follow these certain rules when you go to implement this grant. Because the subaward agreement is in place and the change of scope is in place, the recommended course of action is to terminate the agreement with the city without cause with a 30-day notice. That is part of the subrecipient agreement that was installed in there. No funding at this point has changed hands. The grant is in a reimbursement basis, so Port Richey would not have to pay any money back to the county because we have not issued any money to them yet. And Port Richey can terminate the project with the contract with no financial impact. We went and we looked at they currently have Branch Diversified. They're contracted with them to do the dredge. They don't have to, they can terminate that contract. So it would not be a financial impact for them is where it goes. As far as reallocation of the funding, there are a
listening to the presentations going all the way through, I think it's very important we get this right. And I want to ask Curtis just one question. When they submitted this, you advised them not to submit it the way it was set up, feeling that it was changing the scope.
Yes, as this project progressed, and they said that they were taking the boat ramp portions out of it, they were told that I don't feel it meets the scope anymore. It may be in danger, but we continued on with the hope that, that we could continue on down to get at least a portion of that project done.
Okay. And I'd say when they first presented this project, it was a $12 million project with everything you saw out there that was going to get done. Mm-hmm. It's even been shrunk down to the point of it was going to be 5.2. At every single presenter that we talked about and awarded, we were looking for them to get leverage of matching funds every step of the way. The city of Newport Richey applied for a 50% grant with SwiftMud, which helped take a good portion of that funding that they got, which has been completed, by the way, fully set up and paid. And the project was a great success. So this project here is our biggest project with the biggest points with all the things we're going to do. Even when the bids came out, only one bidder showed up, with only one bidder bid on it, and they cut it down for one single channel. Nothing like what was supposed to be done. Nothing was matching to go any further. Even from 2015 all the way through, they hadn't done anything. I went to the commission with a proposal as far as what they could go look at, expanding their dredging and working with SwiftMud, especially with the Port Richey outfall money, to go look at the channels along Old Post Road, doing everything on one shot, and working with SwiftMud to go to cooperative funding. Nothing happened with that. They did have one dredging workshop, which was nice, and a few people sitting around with no agenda, no meeting had happened since. They voted on this project, and I'll say this, I sat down with the mayor to say, look, you're going down to one thing. There's no way the Restore Act Committee would have, in my opinion, approved this project with one channel for $667 grand, $652 grand. No way would have wouldn't have seen the value to it. With one bidder, I mean, you need to go back out and take a look. But that was before I even knew about the scope issue, how significant that was. So I think staff recommendation to determine is the right one. I'll make a motion for that.
Before we go to that motion, Mayor from Newport Richey is not here. I haven't seen that. Got a motion. Are you seconding the motion?
No, I was discussing. I'm not seconding a motion.
No second. Okay.
I can amend the motion, but let me have a discussion.
Discussion, you might want to.
So knowing that area, and I'm looking at a cost of $666,000, which we know it's a lot of money, but at the same time, the amount of dredging that's going to go on there, the benefit to the area, and not only to the city but to the county in general, as somebody that does, I know that area very well. I am a boater, I am a fisherman, and when my boat works,
That's
the boat, right?
Yeah.
When it works. I do drop at that boat ramp quite often. So if you look, think about all the what's that?
I thought this boat ramp was going to be a new one over at the
That's
park.
two separate ones.
Put the picture back up.
Yeah. So
With the mess box.
yeah. So knowing how shallow it gets, especially in that bayou area, it does need to be.
open and then.
No,
make
take the
a
boat
new-
ramp out of it.
Let me just kind of go over what, I mean, as far as terminating, we need to terminate this part of it. I'm happy to go back and work with the city just like I was trying to do before.
Yeah.
So let me just explain. If you look at the lower part there, Nick's Park, that's where the one boat ramp is right now.
All right.
Okay. And they don't want to, they were going to change it and move it over to the waterfront park, the light green area up to the top. Okay, that's not going to happen now.
What do you mean change it?
They were going to move
Who
Nick's
was gonna
Park
move
and just, the city. was
Oh,
gonna
they
make
were
that
gonna
just
move
a
it to the
parking area.
waterfront park.
That was just going to be parking.
It's not.
Then they were going to move it to Waterfront Park and make a boat ramp there. Bigger parking, bigger facility would have been a lot more beneficial. That's what one of the big things of the restoring committee was looking at to say, okay, they're really going to do something to increase tourism, decrease boat traffic, etc. The first connection you see in the purple line that's on the map up there, that was going to be along Gildog's channel out there and then out in front, all the way through. Now, I want to say this. In looking at what they were going to dredge, those are two good channels to dredge. One of the things that did get left out was out in front of Whiskey Joe's. There's a
Yeah,
sandbar
because we
that's there.
can't go there in our boat.
So,
Big sand.
and frankly, in looking at doing this whole thing, we just got the $5 million award from the BP Restoring Committee, from the State Expenditure Fund, the Port Richey outfall. All that Port Richey outfall that goes into the area, if you look at the items 14, 15, 16, 17, the light blue channels up there, look right to the right side. There's like a little bit of a lake that's there. That lake is part of the Port Richey outfall. Swift Mud works with that. We work with that. Quist Drive is just below Quist Drive is at the 15 channel. That's the one we went out there on during Hurricane Maria, where we had for $8,500, we had an in-staff person come out there. During the emergency, I said I was going to go reach out to Governor and DEP and Swift Mud to try to get them to go clean this silt out that was all around there. That's where they took out the 4 truckloads of dirt. When they pulled all that out, it helped the flow, but there's still more work to be done to there. Those channels, 14, 15, 16, 17, and even all the way down to the Gildog channel, though indirect, all takes all that stormwater from everything that's over there. So the Suncoast Mobile Home Park that floods up, we always put pumps out there. All that benefit to everything in there, we can go put a study in together with Swift Mud, study that whole outfall right in there, combine it with what we've got from the State Expenditure Fund, and put a massive group. Instead of spending $667 for getting one channel done, I'm going to say when we get all said and done with this thing, we might be able to get all that done with that same amount of money, getting matching money from Swift Mud, if we approach it correctly.
Isn't that dredge permit gonna expire?
The dredge permit's going to expire, but they can get another dredge permit. But if we need to go take care of, like, let's say, Whiskey Joe's, this whole thing needs to be redone if we're going to redo it. Let's do it right. What they're doing now is shortcutting everything doesn't have near the benefit could have for the whole area. And if you really want to upload everything here and fix stormwater, which Commissioner Wells talked about long ago, when he was going to get behind, look, I want to do the dredging part, I want to help get that done, but I want to make sure we're going to help stormwater stuff. This is directly into a major area that we have a stormwater problem on, that this can actually fix it, and then we can probably reach out to the residents, get them maybe help all the way through. But we can do so much better with what's here.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Mr. Moore.
So, okay, how about this? Okay, because no matter what, the agreement has to be the agreement has to be terminated anyways. I mean, that's the fact. It has to be. It can't, no matter what.
Yes.
So let's pull back a little bit here. Let me amend your motion a little bit here. So, motion to terminate the sub-recipient agreement in grant application, but maintain the allocation for the restore pot 1 in the amount of the $667 with the city of Port Richey for the purposes, obviously, of dredging the area that we're talking about. And let's direct staff to work with the city to generate an amended multi-year implementation plan and present it to the BCC. So let them go back, work with for a couple of weeks, we'll bring it back. At that time, we'll have a full commission too. I would assume there'll be 5 of us here. And then if you don't like what you hear, what staff's working with them on, then just vote nay. But let's let them go back out there, work it, and bring it back to us. I mean, I personally, and this is from, again, the tourism mindset and somebody that's a consumer, as a citizen, that uses this area on a pretty frequent basis. I understand that dredging needs to be done. It's obvious it needs to be done. I don't think we should just cut the cord. Give them the opportunity, go back, bring it back to us.
Right, but again, I'm cutting the cord just for this one agreement.
Right.
That's gotta end.
But
I'm
the
happy to-
difference is he's saying reserve that pot
I'm
of
okay
money.
with that. I'm okay
for
with that.
a
And I want to get Swift Mud in the conversation. DEP who's going to have to go get the permit in the Swift, in the conversation, and maybe the Army Corps too. And let's go to put a big plan together to do this whole thing. And frankly, I think it should go back even to the Restore Act Committee, let them relook at it, because that's where it's got to be initiated. You probably have to do that anyway. And I think that's probably on the agenda too. So
So
let it go to the,
you want to amend your motion?
I'll amend my motion to, we terminate the agreement first. Then we have them go work with SwiftMud, Army Corps, DEP, go back to the Restore Act Committee and put a new plan together and present it. And then after they present it, then we're gonna get to see it. But it's gonna take some time to do this right. I mean, SwiftMud, frankly, had they listened back in July or June, they could have already started this process with SwiftMud and maybe got into this year's allocations through October, but they didn't want to go do it. So they're going to delay themselves a year, but I'm going to tell you, I think we get all the permits done again anyway. It's going to be another year delay to make it happen, but we can do so much more what's there. There's so much more potential than dredging one channel, the same amount of money. We're supposed to get a boat ramp park, a waterfront park, and then all the dredging in the front. We can do so much better.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Moore?
so my understanding is that the mayor is looking at adding another boat ramp at Nick's now. So you have where the boat ramp is, and you have space on the right-hand side of where the dock is. And then he's also looking at purchasing parking out front. I mean, it does need another ramp, we know that. I mean, there's not enough parking sufficient parking for just the one ramp now. It gets busy, if you're out there early in the morning, even on weekdays, sometimes you're not going to get a spot. On the weekend, you're toast. That's just the way it is. But again, I think, Keith, do you have anything you want to add to this? I mean, I just don't want to see this. We talk about dredging, we want to have dredging, we want to get it done. And I just don't want to lose an
We need to go
opportunity.
forward.
We start messing with going back to DEP, start going back to the Corps, this could be years and years down the road when we have an opportunity to dredge this portion right now.
So,
Okay.
so Keith Wiley, Director of Parks, Recreation, Natural Resources. My team's comfortable with that approach. I think the only clarification that we would like is through that process is it the board's wish to make sure that the city's portion of the project, quote unquote, stays intact. Because it seems like a larger scope that's being discussed now, and $667,000 will really only go so far. So I think that's the only point of clarification, right, that we would need.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Brown?
Just another point of clarity too. And if they want to expand the boat ramp, that's part of it. That can be part of the same conversation. But I want you to remember one other thing too. The first part of the dredge they did on the channel to the south, they didn't dredge it far enough. They filled up their whole DMA site. And part of the reason Treasury rejected this bid that was in there, this is to get rid of that fill. I think if we redo that permit, right now it's got to go to, I think is it Class A or Class 1 landfill? I'm not sure what the term is.
I'm not sure about the classification.
So it's a high grade,
landfill.
it's got to a line landfill, which is costing them a fortune up at the county. Is it Class A?
Would be one.
Class
It
1.
would be a sanitary,
So
if
it's
it's
going to
a
a Class
line
1
sanitary
landfill.
landfill.
The only ones around here is one's going to be, and I want you to know, I had this conversation with the mayor before, back in June. It can go either to ours, which is like $68 a ton, $65 a ton. They pay that, or to go to Sumter, which is like $32 a ton, but the freight's a lot more. I have talked to sand experts that they think if they actually work with the soil that's in there, they think they can actually combine it and make it so it doesn't have to go to that landfill. It would save them $300,000 thereabouts in soil costs. So I think we could do this a lot better. They just have gone through plodding along, doing it the way they did it. That's just not, that it wasn't a good move. And clearly, not meeting the scope, a big waste of money if you're going to go spend $300,000 to dredge one channel when we can probably get all of them done. We just can do so much better with the plan. And if we bring it to the table, which is a great part of this whole thing, I think we can do something great. I really do.
Okay.
I don't think we're far apart from what you're saying, what he's saying. So,
I think we're close.
I said, what, again, just, can we amend the motion, just maintain the allocation from pot one, it's a 667. Please, you made a statement and maybe add to that motion to make sure that the city of Port Richey keeps their portion intact. Is that what you just said?
what is that portion?
That's the entire portion. I guess that's,
so I don't understand what else,
well, I guess the only, again, the clarification is that that's the board's direction. I mean, again, that's a larger scope that Commissioner Mariano referenced. I don't think our team has any preference. We just need to know which direction we're supposed to go in specifically.
Can they, again, like the amendment I made a second ago, can't we just allow staff to work with them on the MYIP and bring the application back to the board to look it over? And if you're not satisfied with it then make changes? But at least give staff and the team the opportunity to bring it back to us again.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
The reason that we can't do that is the bid that went out there, would the bid come in, only one bidder was out there, number one, which to me, I wouldn't want to approve it just if I had a high bid anyway and just one bidder showed up. I'd say, well, let's go relook at this. Maybe there's something better out there. And there are other bids that were involved in there that, for whatever the reason we don't know, didn't bid on it. But again, with the high cost of that one bid that goes there, we can do so much better with this whole plan. And it's important that we get SwiftMud in the mix. Now, the city of Newport Richey did it. With their project at Orange Lake, they got cooperative funding in that project. These guys were told about that opportunity. They didn't want to take it. I think we need to make sure in that motion that SwiftMud's in the mix. Even if you don't include DEP, SwiftMud's got to be in that mix.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Okay, so let's, okay.
And matter of fact, let me say, I think DEP should be in the mix, because if we're going to go change the DMA site for the soils, we're going to need DEP at the table anyway. So let's make this, let's go make it so it can work big, but we're going to get all the people in the room, and it's not going to be something quickly to do a modification of MYP and bring it back to us. It's going to take a whole new study.
Oh, what? Only what?
You're going to have to study the whole thing and look at it. You're going to look at, you can look at the channels 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18, and get the one out in front, which is what they definitely need. You might be able to get later on Whiskey Joe's included in the front, which is, I think, a very important thing for the money they spent in there, the great business they do. We need to make sure that happens. And then working with that outfall, where again, $5 million that we've got from the other side can dramatically help with the stormwater issues that are out there. That was a big part of the program, the stormwater issues too.
Let me ask one more question, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Moore?
To the team. Time. I mean, the importance of this motion today, let's say my amended motion to bring it back in a couple of weeks, or maybe we need to sit down in every one of the commissioners, and the one that's not here today, we've moved to continue this to the next meeting so we can have individual conversations with the team so it's fully understood by all. I just don't want to see it go away. So we sit here and we talk. Well, so we talk, and obviously you're a big proponent for dredging, which we obviously appreciate. A lot of the citizens do too. I just don't want this to get, once again, held up and held up for years, because we're bringing all these groups back into the mix and then nothing ever gets done. Because that's what we see happen constantly. So if we start bringing DEP in, we bring in SwiftMud. I've never once heard SwiftMud say that they feel it's, or have they done any projects with very similar to what you're speaking of. I'm not saying they wouldn't. I just haven't heard of that or seen that happen. I don't want to really get into the weeds too much, but if you have, well, I'm not going to get into it.
Let me just touch on that a little bit.
Keith,
If
do
I
you
could,
think
Mr.
this
Chairman?
can happen
Mr. Chairman?
more quickly than not?
Well,
Chairman?
Chairman, I think no matter what, there's going to be lots of time involved. I mean, the process for the grants application and the MYP is
Either way, it's gonna take
either
time.
way is a 6-month plus process. So I think, to hopefully wrap this up, I could give some confidence that Commissioner Mariano, we can ask those questions in either amended motion. I think we can do our due diligence and ask those questions. I don't think all the details need to be in it. Maybe we delay it, we do some briefings, and we talk about what we find, and then we take the next step from there. Maybe we don't. But in either scenario, the agreement that's in place now has to be terminated for us to move forward ultimately.
Yeah, we understand that. So,
Okay. So how should the motion read?
Mr. Chairman, let me just clarify one thing. And then when Hurricane Maria was coming in, okay, we knew the storm wasn't going to affect us. But I looked at the storm surge situation that was going to go on. Water was going to come in over the streets, etc. And I reached out, and at our meeting when we declared it, but that it was emergency. I says, I'm going to be reaching out to the governor because of the state of emergency, he can do an instant permit through SWIFMUD and DEP. So I called the governor. He then said, okay, go ahead. You have my support. Go call DEP. Called Secretary Valentine. He then says, have you talked to Brian Armstrong? We got Brian Armstrong. We had John Palonda. We looked at the aerials, just like you're seeing right here. I said, look, that one canal that's right there goes right out through, and there's silt everywhere. I had pictures to show them because we've been working on it for the past couple of months. They gave us instant permission. This is DEP now, in SWIFMUD, working with the governor's office. Instantly, they saw the importance of getting that thing cleaned out. This whole thing that's
You're talking
right
about this
here,
pond over here?
that whole
whatever
pond
it is.
over there is all stormwater that comes out from US 19.
It's a mess.
Now remember, the Suncoast Mobile Park, we got pumps out there every single storm that comes in. Okay, once we did that, they didn't flood out the last 2 storms, having that thing cleared out. Staff is like, I'm not sure whether it was all of it, but I'm going to tell you, the people that was over there, they appreciated, they saw what we're doing. Like the head guy of the HOA, he called me, I actually saw him afterward, he goes, I saw what you guys were doing, and boy, it seemed like it made a difference. But DEP and SWIFMUD, they get it. They want to make this thing better.
And
The whole state.
that's for that stormwater pond, if that's what that is. But
Yeah.
how does that, so now I do believe in my talks with DEP that they do fund dredging when it helps
Yeah.
help flooding.
Exactly.
And Pinellas County just got a big grant with the help of their federal lobbyists to dredge Anclote River. So I do think there is maybe a possibility for DEP help. I don't know if these houses here flood or if that dredge would be just to help the mobile home park.
Well, here's what's going to help. That pond that's right there goes all the way down. So from all those channels, you can go down there, and in the road, there's a marker saying this canal floods to the Gulf. So goes to the Gulf. So it goes from the stormwater pond, and each one of those goes all the way across. When you look at the 18 one at Gildogs, there's a trench that goes from Waterfront Park all the way down in front of his property all the way down and connects right there. So it doesn't do a direct connect like it does to the canal, but it goes through a pipe that goes right out there. Every one of those will help with stormwater. When stormwater surge comes in, it's going over everything anyway. The key is to get it out fast. And that's what you want. And that's what this will allow it to do instead of getting stuck up and held up.
Well,
That's why this is...
I think it's worth seeing if we can leverage all the money.
That's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what can happen. So my motion will be, we approve staff's recommendation and terminate this agreement, but then we go set up a workshop, meetings to go through to try to do a bigger project. We'll keep the money in where the city can allocate it, and we can still work together to keep that money there. So we're not pulling it away from them. We're just going to reset it up, and we're going to look at everything that's involved, including, as Commissioner Moore says, that canal out in the front that needs to be dredged, and we'll even make sure we get Whiskey Joe's in front of that.
So question, okay, I like your vote, appreciate it. So we'll maintain the allocation for the pot 1 as amount of 667. We're not gonna have to go back to the restore committee or the RAC again for that.
Well, I
We're gonna
think we
maintain
should.
it. Well, we're gonna maintain that allocation now.
We're going to maintain the allocation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're gonna allow staff to work with the city and try to include some things you spoke about, but on a new multi-year implementation plan, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Keith?
Sounds good. I was actually trying to track down a schedule, but
Okay.
yes.
You're asking that during the process, talk to Swiftman, talk to DEP, and see if some of these other additional things can be done, like you mentioned, without getting in the weeds on it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, second.
Okay. All right, I got a motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, if I'm going
More discussion?
to put this in right now because when this MYIP comes back, the board is going to have to make a determination that it's substantially similar or better than the project that went to the RAC and was prioritized. You've set up a process where the RAC is what makes a recommendation to you. If you're not going to send it back to them, you at least have to compare the initial project that was submitted and modified, that you're now terminating, and what ends up coming from this discussion that you're going to have workshop.
I would prefer it not to go back to the RAC, because who knows how long that's going to take. I prefer it, yes, go back to staff and the team, let them work on it and bring it back to us.
Mr. Chairman? But if you're afraid of the time, I'm sorry, the way this whole thing's set up is all about the citizen involvement with the stakeholder committee. That's why they set it up with 9 people on this committee to go look at it. We can schedule it when they know it's coming up. We'll have plenty of time because we set the meeting up, we control it, and we can even do it so tight where you wouldn't skip a week from when they're ready to when it comes back.
Yeah, but
It's not a time anymore.
here's a fear though, okay? Because we're stating here to maintain the allocation for that dredging, the 667 plus possibly other things. If it goes back to the RAC, that could change. That allocation could change. It could. So I will continue with the motion as long as it doesn't go back to the RAC. Because because it's a moot point, Mr. Steinschneider, and I'll let him jump in. It's a moot point for us to make a determination to keep that 667 in if it goes back to the RAC, because they can come back with a different recommendation, and then it goes away.
I'll say this. All right, so I'll say this. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, but I just want you to remember one thing. Treasury may look at it differently, and we'll maybe, no, they won't?
No, so I called Treasury this morning